My name's Melinda Brooks. I've been a member of NACM since 2012, and I've been more recently involved in the committees here in this last year when my role kind of changed within the court to allow me to do that. I'm happy to introduce our speakers this afternoon. First, we have Judge Paul Herbert, who will be talking about catch court out in Franklin County, where I am from. I've had the pleasure of working with Judge Herbert the entire time I've been with the court, so I'm excited to share this with you. And then also Danielle Pugh-Markieis, who is the Director of Judicial Education and Leadership and Center for Court Innovation. We are live streaming and recording this session so others can hear it down the line if they'd like to pull it up. So for that reason, we would ask, when we get to the end, they're going to try to really move through quite a bit of material. So we're going to try to hold questions and comments to the end. We're going to save some time for that. And we'll ask you to step up to the microphone. I know it's awkward in this smaller venue, but that allows us to record your questions clearly and make sure that the folks that are watching from home can hear what you're talking about. So with that in mind, if you could help me welcome Judge Herbert and Danielle Pugh-Markieis.
Thank you. I'm going to put this closer to me. So happy Monday. I took a red eye here, so if I start falling asleep at the podium, Judge Herbert's going to save me. So a few things. I want to just introduce the Center for Court Innovation. Just by show of hands, how many of you have heard about us? Okay, so a fair amount. So the Center for Court Innovation is a private-public entity that seeks to help create more effective and humane justice systems. And how we do that is we actually create and implement operating programs, which is right in the middle. And while we're doing that, we're performing our original research to see what works and what doesn't work, so that people who are interested in replicating those programs from our expert assistance team, which I'm part of, we just say, this didn't work in our community when we tried it in Staten Island, or if we tried it in Buffalo, or what have you, but here are the reasons why it didn't work, and it might work, but it doesn't say that it might not work in your community, but here are some of the factors that made it successful or not successful. And so really we try to, we really try to innovate and see what works and what doesn't work. Oh, my microphone started working. Around justice reform. So we've tried almost everything. So if you are interested in community courts to restorative justice, domestic violence courts, human trafficking courts, drug courts, call us and we'll probably can help you. And if we can't, we can put you to one of our TA providers, one of our partners. So for today, our learning objectives for this session, as a result of this session, you will be better able to consider the victim-defendant paradigm and the challenge it poses for the courts, explore the various roles key court stakeholders can play to address the needs of trafficking victims, review effective strategies for identifying and diverting trafficking victims within the courts, and learn about the catch court model. So before we get started, we'd like to know who's in the room. So just by a show of hands, I'm going to just yell out some roles, and you just raise your hand if you belong to that role. If not, scream out, or it's okay to just scream out what you do. And I'll repeat it. So clerks, any clerks in the room? Oh, okay, so a fair amount. How about judges?
Thank God.
You're supposed to raise your hand, Judge. Court administrators. Okay, and then this really general category, manager. Okay. Did I miss anyone? Any roles? No? Okay, so majority of court administrators and clerks in the room. Okay, in terms of your years in that role, who were 0 to 3? Newbies. Okay, we're gonna ask you a lot of questions. 4 to 6 years? Great. 7 to 10? Wow, no 7 to 10, that's interesting. 11 plus years. Wow. So new and seasoned in and no kind of in the middle. That's interesting. Okay, and who in the room have human trafficking dockets? Well, cheater. Okay, so no one. Who's interested? Okay, interesting. Okay. So what do we want to just, before we start and talk about the CACH model, which is very specific, we want to just give you a kind of a sense of what's happening nationally. Now, we know that trafficking is on the rise, is a very difficult issue to address in our communities. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions around trafficking, and really a lot of our domestic trafficking is happening. Usually we think about trafficking, we think about something in Eastern Europe or Thailand. It exists, but it also exists that our own citizens are being trafficked. So many courts and many communities have been trying to combat human trafficking. And what we found in terms of all the dockets that are cropping up is that there's no real one size fits all. And I think as we are in this room and we tackle many of our issues that our courts need to address, that we know it really matters about what the community has, the will of the community, the collaboration, which we'll be talking about later, and what type, where is the need in terms of how to address trafficking. So, but what we did find out through our years of working on this issue is that we have some key principles that guide this work, and I can talk about those key principles in a minute. But many communities are looking at various intercept points in terms of how to tackle trafficking. So Seattle, King County, Washington has been very in the forefront of addressing trafficking, and they have an interesting lead program that the law enforcement does that really just bypasses the jails and goes straight to diverting what the law enforcement officers divert these people right to services. And so they have a lot of authority or leeway to do that. And so that's been a practice. We're going to really cover, we talk about prosecutors, we're going to really cover the courts. We're going to talk about CACH court as an adult court, but STAR, RISE, our juvenile courts handling domestic child sex trafficking. Phoenix is also in Michigan. Esperanza is in Bexar County, Texas, and our human trafficking intervention courts are in New York. We have about 7 or 8 of them. And then the STAR and RISE are in California. So this is just a sample of of some of the courts that are out there, but we know that many courts around the country keep looking at this issue and trying to develop their own dockets, and so they've been coming to us or actually visiting or contacting existing courts to see how they run their dockets. And one of the other things that we notice, I'm not sure about programs, but that corrections plays a big role in identifying and helping to get survivors, victims into services, because that's when they're seeing a lot of the red flags that are happening in terms of mostly women being trafficked. So there's the 4 various intercept points. Were there any other intercept points that I meant? Oh, okay. So the Center for Core Innovation we produce several materials up the wazoo for people we have podcasts, we have videos, which we're gonna show in a second. We have really short documents, viewer guides that make it really easy for people who are interested in this topic. And so we created this viewer's guide, and this is the guide that helps us around the key principles when you're trying to create a human trafficking docket. And then there's also a planning toolkit that we'll show a little bit later at the end of the program that you can also access on the website. So what are the key principles? Well, one is to be trauma-informed. You've heard this a lot. This is kind of the buzzword, but it's important because We know that majority of people are walking in and working in our courts have trauma, have experienced trauma, or are living with trauma. So trauma-informed approaches is critical. Identifying victims. So it's very rare that a victim of sex trafficking is going to say that they're a victim of sex trafficking. So how do we identify them and appropriately address their issues in a trauma-informed way, and then linking them to services. So I always like to say in this, like, do no further harm. So if you're identifying, please have services available. It's a really critical component. If some people in the courthouse are identifying people and they don't have any services, you're doing possibly more harm than good. Multidisciplinary collaboration, which is the theme of this conference, and you can't have services, assessments, what have you, without collaboration. We're not islands. We need each other. So Judge Herbert's going to really talk about some great collaborations that he is engaged in. And then redefining success. So what is success for this population? It's a very nasty circumstance to be in, and I think we can't say success is for everyone, you know, getting a PhD and then living a certain kind of life. It happens, don't get me wrong, it happens, but maybe just showing up is success. So redefining success and making it more individualized is going to be critical. So I wanted to introduce a video, just a snippet. We have the 28-minute, I'm not going to show you the 28-minute video here, but just a snippet of 3 of our judges talking about, and their team members talking about why and how they created their human trafficking courts.
I think before these courts existed, there was a very limited understanding of prostitution and what that entailed. Where you have prostitution arrests, you are going to find individuals who have been trafficked. Under these circumstances, it is inherently unfair to deal with them as just criminal offenders or criminal defendants. We meet once a week on Fridays, and before the cases are called, each of the cases is referred to a different service provider based on demographics. Those who are transgender, for example, will be referred to organizations or agencies that deal with the transgender community, and so on. What we try to do is really to be linguistically and culturally sensitive in terms of being able to provide services that will meet the needs of our different populations. That makes an incredible difference in terms of people being engaged in the services, people coming back to these organizations even after they have fulfilled their mandates, and also in terms of feeling comfortable enough to disclose their trafficking history.
Normally, the judge and the ADA determine a number of sessions. If it's somebody's first arrest, it's usually 5 sessions. If it's someone's second or third arrest, it goes up slightly from there, perhaps 6 or 7 sessions. Our services include individual therapy, group counseling, case management, and advocacy.
We're very realistic in thinking that, okay, well, that person, unless they are ready to leave their exploiter, for example, is not going to do it in 5 sessions, right? If the most we can do under these circumstances is connect that individual, right, to a service provider, to a telephone number that they could call, or knowing that they have certain resources available to them at a future date, when and if they are ready, you know, to leave the life or to leave their pimp, then we are accomplishing, something important.
At 11 years old, I didn't identify as a victim. I didn't understand that I was a victim. And by the time I turned 15, after being in probably about already 10 different group homes and foster homes and facilities, institutions, I guess you can say, I was introduced to this thing called CSEC. That stands for Commercially Sexually Exploited Children. And after that, I did a group and was becoming aware of my circumstances that, I was a victim.
What we find is that about 80% of our kids have a documented child welfare background, meaning that their family has been involved in the dependency system or some sort of child welfare intervention at some point in the child's life. I have the opportunity to decide whether I think this child would be better served by child welfare or by probation. We'll continue to see her regularly, regardless of which agency is what we refer to as the lead agency.
Many of these youth are in need of drug treatment programs, and because of the traumatic issues, the youth are also in need of mental health services as well.
We don't believe that they should be punished for what happened to them, because detention is only temporary. It doesn't fix anything. It can actually set a kid back.
We have counseling teams that go into the home 2 or 3 times a week to just try to mend the relationship between the child and the parents, because that is usually what led to them being out on the streets and possibly in the life. Learning to engage with my clients and talking to them in a trauma-informed manner was probably the most difficult part of my training, because quite frankly, don't address that in law school. That's not one of the subjects on the bar exam.
Once we found that out and we started treating the trauma at the same time as the drugs, it's like a miracle. Our success rate went from about 20% staying and 80% running back to the trafficker. Once we dealt with that trauma, it was about 80% people staying and 20% running. You need to, if you're going to do a human trafficking court, you have to address the trauma.
I think before these
So that was just a sample of 3 different courts addressing trafficking, and really what I think you heard, hopefully heard, is that really looking at being trauma-informed, linking their services, really trying to, and we didn't talk about collaboration, but you collaborative efforts there, but and really looking at who's in front of you. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Judge Herbert to talk more about the catch court.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks for being here. Is it okay if I come? Is that okay with you? Come around here? Thanks for being here. As simple as I could put this is why you should do this is we all come from corrections-based judicial systems. Oh, I want to have Lori Tyak raise her hand again. Sorry, that's my clerk of court down there. She's awesome, and I know she's really been super supportive with her, and thanks, Melinda, for being here as well. So sorry, I'm just jumping right in because I know we don't have a lot of time, and I got a lot to go through, and I know y'all want to get out to your big party or whatever's happening tonight. So, but anyway, you ever notice that in our court systems, and even from the point of arrest, we try to make it so uncomfortable for people they never want to come back, right? I don't care if it's when you're getting stopped or when the judge is looking at you, you feel, or the bailiff or the clerk, or a lot of times our own attorneys, it's uncomfortable. So with certain populations, we have found out that not only doesn't work, it actually makes the problem worse. And that's how we get to this revolving door crime like prostitution, okay? And so we have special courts for veterans, mental health, drug addiction, and now I'm in my 11th year of doing a human trafficking court. So it's really made a big difference. So thank you so much for being here. I know it's a lot of you before we started. I'm going to take you through what changing actions to change habits, that's the name of the court, how that kind of came to be. And it wasn't any revelation. I'm like any other judge. When I put my robe on and I zip it all the way up to the top, there are these fumes that start going into my nose, and I think I know everything. Right? So it took quite a big deal for me to change my mindset on, it's not just Pretty Woman, right? It's not Julia Roberts getting to hang out with Richard Gere. So I was in court one day, and it was a domestic violence docket. It was really the arraignment phase. And the prosecutor was bringing all the victims up on my left at a podium, and the sheriff was bringing all the defendants in chained up on the wall. And it was, I think we had 36 protection hearings, and, I don't know how many on the docket. It was just bringing them one through. In a domestic violence docket, you're going to be exposed to things that look like this, women who've been freshly beaten, pictures from hospital beds. And the defendants, they kind of look the same. They kind of look generally the same. So on the one side, we see a victim, and on the other side, we see what? Power and control. That wheel, right? That domination, power and control. You can see him over there looking at the victim, staring him down, trying to intimidate him right there in the courtroom. Anybody? Yeah, I see that every time I'm there. Also, I get pictures from hospital beds. I saw women with this particular day in court when it happened, clumps of hair pulled out, arms in slings, and this guy, he's one of our serial domestic violence defendants. He's just constantly a terrorist in his own home. He just keeps doing this to this poor lady. And then this you can't really see from the way the lighting is in the photograph, but if you've ever been around a domestic violence situation, these women come in and they have these bright red rings around their neck from choking within 24 hours. It makes a very unique markings on the neck, and it just chills me. It just chills me. We get guys coming in wanting to push their attorney out of the way. I'm serious. It happens every time. Judge, you got a minute, Judge. You need to hear from me, Judge. That's that power and control. I can control the man up there, in the robe, right? So this was going on, and I was actually sitting there going, I don't like being a judge anymore, because I hated seeing what was happening to these women, and I saw this horrible thing. I'm thinking, these people have to live like this, it's awful. But then the sheriff brought the next defendant chained up on the wall, and it was this lady right here. Her name's Vivian. Now, when we look at Vivian, you can see she's got the jail outfit on, right? And she was in handcuffs, and she was manacled, so I know she's a prisoner. But when you see her, can you see her black eye? Can you see that? And her other eye's starting to turn yellow. When you see her, does she look more like one of these victims or like one of the defendants we were showing? Victim? If any of you said defendant, I'm not going to ask you to leave right now, please. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, she looks more like a victim, and I'm sitting up there. All of a sudden, I'm like, I looked down at the file, and it said prostitute. I'm like, wait a minute, I knew what that was because I'm a judge. I'm wearing this robe and everything, and I know. But she's standing over there looking like that. So I really decided to find out what happened to her. How did she get here? And Vivian's story started out like many, and we've seen this. This is Vivian at 5 or 6 years old with holding her dolls, by the Christmas tree. And some things started happening at that age that by the time she was 26, she was in front of a judge labeled in our society as a prostitute, which is not a very nice label, right? It's not a very nice thing to be called that. So here's some other ladies that have been through my court and what they looked like when they started. And the cool thing is I'm going to show you how they all look today, all right? By the time we get to the end here. She's felony, drugs, prostitution. This lady, robbery, theft, did a 3 to 15 year stint. And I'm also an elected judge, right? I got to be careful because I don't want to be Judge Hug a Thug, right? Okay. This lady had aggravated trafficking in drugs out of Athens, Ohio. And if you don't get anything else out of this, if you're ever in Athens, Ohio, which you probably never will be, don't try to sell drugs, because they wanted to put her in prison for 5 years. I had to have a discussion with the judge. It's a higher up judge, so when I called him, I'm like, this is Judge Herbert. Even though I'm a low level judge, like I had to sound bigger than I was. Anyway, I got stories behind all this. I was telling Danielle. Barbara went to the prison for aggravated burglary, parole violations. I mean, these are not, like the sweethearts of Sigma Chi, okay? What I found out, folks, though, in my research, sat at my computer, I found out that 62% of all women enter prostitution before they're even 18 years old. That shocked me. I'm thinking, you're supposed to be going to your prom, right? And that 33% of all women enter prostitution before they're even 15 years old. Now, you're in middle school, guys, okay? And I know they touched on it in the video, but I'm throwing some extra stuff out at you, okay? Let me show you something.
Now, if you want something really young, that 200 it just costs a little more than that.
Sure.
But how young you talking? Talk to me.
Well, how young do you have?
Well, I don't have nothing younger than 14.
Okay, no, 14 is good.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, you're going to have to add something to that.
Sure.
What you willing to add to that, too? Just talk to me.
Well, like I said, this is my first time out. So the girls over there cost 2, is that?
That's the women.
The women.
Now, if I told you 2, and you want something younger, and I tell you to add something to it, just tell me, you just pick a figure to that.
Well, I guess, 3?
3. If you do 3, you got it.
You guys think that goes on in our country? People selling other people, women and girls? Yeah, they sure does. 96% of all your juveniles start out as runaways, which was touched on a little bit. But I didn't understand that because that's almost 100% of your 62% of all the women who are selling themselves. So, we got a lot of runaways. 72% of these kids are sexually and physically violated in their home. And that's why they run away, which was touched on really good by the video that Danielle showed. I asked the police, I said, so what's with this runaway number? And they said, well, boys, we run away because we're stupid. But girls are running away from something. And that's what it is. They're trying to tell somebody, they're trying to get out from under this. And while this abuse is going on, things change in their brain, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I got to keep going because I could talk for quite a long time. This is kind of an important slide. This is actually my favorite part. Who wants to go to law school at 3, 4, 15 in the afternoon today? Nobody? Come on, Melinda, raise your hand. Okay, thank you. Whew. Lord, I had my own people. I had to raise their hand. Okay. The definition of prostitution in Ohio, very simplistically, is no person shall engage in sexual activity for hire. Okay? If you do that, that makes you a what? God, you guys are great. Yeah, so we're gonna slap the cuffs on you. We're gonna hand you a complaint. We're gonna do whatever. We're gonna take you down to jail. You're gonna go to court. You're gonna look like Vivian. That's what happened to Vivian. She got caught for engaging in sexual activity for hire, and they slapped the cuffs on her, took her to court, and I saw her. And we label her as a prostitute, and we treat her like a criminal. Now, notice something really cool is going to happen because I'm going to put up the definition of human trafficking in Ohio. Are you ready for this? No person shall recruit, lure, entice, isolate, harbor, transport another person, knowing that person will be compelled to what? Can't say it all because it's embarrassing, right? Because that's an S word in it. Engage in sexual activity for hire. And I got C's in law school. Not a smart guy here. But do you see that the same sentence is in both those statutes? But the person who's the victim in the human trafficking statute has to engage in a behavior that makes them a criminal in Ohio as well. Do you get that? This is like, I'm getting chills. I've done this 1,000 times. I'm getting chills. This is the victim-defendant paradigm shift right now going on. Are they a victim? Are they a defendant? How do we figure that out? Now, let's look at another couple things. You're going to use this at a party here coming up. I know you will. You are. The human trafficking statute in Ohio became effective in 2012. That's when we in Ohio said, it's a felony of the first degree to do this to any of our vulnerable people. Mandatory prison sentence, a mandatory minimum of 10 years. Now, we also said that prostitution is a part of human trafficking, right? You know that. Don't lose sight of that, right? We saw that. So what I want to do is I want to look at the effective date of the prostitution statute. Right? Most people say, hey, Ohio wasn't even a state in 2000 BC, you dumb A. I'm like, okay, I get that. But here's my point. If human trafficking, we finally in 2012, we said, it's the worst thing in the world, man. And prostitution is a part of human trafficking. Let's take a look at it. Because I wonder, I think it's true that maybe human trafficking has really been around as long as prostitution has. And now we're just getting around to figure it out. It's in the definition, for God's sake. So really, oh, she cut me out. Okay. Danielle cut me. It's cool. So really, I don't blame you for cutting me out at all, because my next slide said, instead of the world's oldest profession, maybe it's really the world's most oppression of women and girls. Okay, so that's it. So anyway, now, it used to be the second fastest growing crime in America, but since I've been doing this, it's now even more than drug trafficking. Now, how do you lure everybody? Like, I was at I hate to tell stories because I got to go, but I was having dinner last night, and the lady said, hey, what are you doing here? And I'm like, it's my chance. You asked. I said, well, I'm here to talk about human trafficking, bro. And she's like, oh, yeah, it's terrible, man. We live next to these people, and they had this Asian girl in there. I'm like, okay, here I go again. Everywhere I go, man. It's like, it's something other than our ladies, and she was talking about it. It's our girls. Promises, love, and marriage, false advertisements, malls. So they have one of these girls that they identify as vulnerable, and they see her looking at, let's just say, some boots. They walk up, not the guys, they have girls that are her same age go up to her, okay? Hey, you want to buy those boots? We got the money. You want to come to a party? And then it starts from there. But the number one way today is this right here. I did a talk to the FBI, and I said, if you have a child that doesn't have a cell phone, I want you to walk out of my class, okay? Because all of our kids, and mine did too, have these things. Now, I'm a low-level judge. I do search warrants. And we had a rule at our house where if the cell phone's laying on the counter and it lights up, the parent gets to look at it, okay? So this particular case, a mom was cooking dinner, the cell phone lights up, mom looks at it, and there's child pornography on the phone. So mom does the right thing. She calls the police. 5-0 comes out to my house at 10:30 at night and knocks on the door. We do a search warrant, find out it's a 28-year-old boy sending this 12-year-old girl child porn. He's just out, he's got 100 other lines out there, folks, just trying to figure out which ones got in a fight with their mom and dad, which ones have that vulnerability factor, okay? So this is it right here. If you got a kid with cell phone, I'm telling you right now, get in control of it, okay? Boom, did that. These guys, I read this book called Pimpology. It was how to be a good pimp. Their mission statement was, make her believe in heaven and she'll follow you to hell. That makes me mad. So get her everything she wants, make her feel loved, okay? So they befriend these girls, and then they make them fall in love with them. They have children with them. Almost every girl in my program has a child by her trafficker, and then they turn on them. And then it's like, hey, baby, I've been giving you dope for 3 weeks now. You owe me. Or it's, hey, we're really in a tough spot here. I really love you. Can you just take this picture? We got to get this thing going. Hey, man, so it's then that starts that manipulation. People see that movie Taken. I'm a judge. I saw Taken. I thought that's what human trafficking was, kidnapped, chained to a bed, drugged up, sold for sex. No, man. Common prisoner control tactics like emotional, physical, and sexual violence. They mix them all together, confuse her. Obviously, the opioid crisis is fueling the human trafficking crisis right now in America, because once you get on that, it's, game's over. Super dependent on them, financial dependence, drug dependence, emotional dependence, and then this is a big one. There's such a correlation between domestic violence and human trafficking, I can't believe it. Isolation is the key. Don't let her talk to anybody or see anybody that can give her any other information. Don't let her say, hey, Francis, man, like, I'm dating this dude, like, he's like a lot older than me, he gave me this tattoo on the side of my neck, and then you'd be like, dude, I think you're in trouble. Doesn't around anybody like that, okay? Fathers, children, we already talked about that. I wish I had more time, because these monsters actually file charges against their girls. They'll file a domestic violence charge against a girl. Cop comes, puts them in jail. They get to come to court as the victims, these monsters do, and they can show her as she's coming out in handcuffs, look, I got the prosecutor at my beck and call, the cops came and got you, I got the judge going, oh, victim rights, I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? I had that situation come up, and I turned the tables on a guy. It was so cool. It was like, okay, here goes another story. I saw it happening in court, and he was all Mr. Smooth, oh man, and yeah, she needs treatment, and yeah, I love her, and all this other stuff. And I was looking at her, and she just said, he was hitting me, he was drinking, he was doing some other stuff and drinking, and we didn't go to sleep, he hit me, and he hit me one last time, and I saw that arm laying there right across my face, so I bit it. I'm like, that doesn't sound like DV to me, so I opened the file, it says 1 bite mark. So I flipped the tables on him, I said, you know what, I think she's so dangerous that I'm going to put a stay away on this case. Like, you're not going to be able to see her for 2 years. And he's like, oh, no, like, I'm going to lose money, right? I'm losing money. She looks up and this little smile on her face. And he goes, no, I'm not afraid of her. I said, sir, 1 bite mark? Do you know how dangerous that is? I said, I really said this. I said, that could lead to a hair pull. And the prosecutor started losing it because all my super snide, sarcastic stuff came out. Okay. Have you guys seen these branding marks? These are 2 girls from our courtroom. This is a real telltale sign. If you see a large brand, this one says White Boys on the side of her neck, and those are initials. This crown right here, crowns are a big gang thing. This just happens to be a gang on the west side of Columbus that if you mess with her, you're going to be messing with their gang, okay? And this guy actually put a brand right above her private area that said property of, right? And so that lady actually started it's called Survivors Inc., which covers up these tattoos. Pretty cool. Wish I had more time to talk about that. There's a lot of meaning in this statement. The goal of the perpetrator is to instill in his victim not only the fear of death, but also gratitude for being allowed to live. Think of that. This is a technique that was most commonly started by Stalin. I don't have time to go into it, but it's where you get somebody in their anyway, you guys get it, okay? So we got tons of physical abuse with this population, rapes, broken bones, and this is a big one. Almost 50% of our women have a traumatic brain injury. Y'all know what that is? Yeah? Okay. Scientifically, there's a doohickey right here, and if it gets messed with, you start to lose your ability to think cognitively, okay? That's important because it's really super hard to diagnose, it's super hard to understand, and it's super hard to deal with. But it helps them control these ladies. And I say ladies because most of them are. All right. Here's our 10,000-foot overview review. And I always like to tell people, where are you at in this picture? Or you're somewhere in here. And if you are somewhere in there, then you have the ability to make a difference in people's lives. Okay? And when we get to, this is kind of cool. I really don't have much time to go over this. So it's not just prostitutes, right? We start out with prostitution as a part of human trafficking, but these monsters, they're making their women do their crimes for them. I just flipped out on the couch. She's sitting there, what's wrong with you? You're having a heart attack. Because There's a girl that was in our court, and she went back to her trafficker, and she's now, it came up on my phone as a news feed from local, one of our ladies is listed as one of Columbus's most wanted. And she's this harmless 26-year-old drug addict, but he's got her out here doing all his crimes for us. So you're going to see every kind of crime coming through the door. They got them going out and cashing the check for them. Come back, I'll give you some dope. And they get caught cashing checks. They've got them doing everything. So we've got a county prosecutor now that will listen and will actually reduce charges down to a misdemeanor, so we can get them into catch court, which is really cool. They don't do that too many, county prosecutors, they're not like too cool on that. But wish I had more time to talk about all this stuff. This is super big because look at the facts. You may see an OVI, just take an operating a vehicle while you're drunk case, and the facts are, let's say the facts are on her way to a strip club. Man, that's probably a human trafficking victim, okay? So what's she doing going there? All right, turns out, guy called her and said, see, I got a story for everything. Guy calls her and says, where are you at? I need you here now. You need to be having your butt up on that stage making some money for me. I don't feel like it. I've been working the last 6 nights in a row. I can't do it. Get your ass in the car and get here right now. She's got heroin in her system. She gets stopped. Needle on the seat. She gets drug paraphernalia, OVI, all because we saw driving to a strip club. All that came out by talking to her attorney. Hey, I see this. Start asking some questions. All right? I don't know what this one is.
In school, I excelled.
Oh, yeah.
I was on the honor roll, and the principal's honor roll, and I was like an overachiever. I ran track. I ran for student body president. Gigi was there at sometimes, and he would talk to me and take me out and like give me all these lavish gifts or do all these things for me and stuff. And then he would tell me that sex-wise, he said, you don't need to give it up for free. He would try to put in my head all these different things and how men really think and how men are. And so I would believe him. He had sex with me when I was 13, and he's a very, he uses his manhood to hurt, like break you in. Gigi's hours were from 6 in the evening to about 5:30 to 6 in the morning. The girls would bring their money and give it to him and stuff. He was like married to all of us, I guess. That's just how they do.
That's pretty tough, isn't it? The good news is she's out of prison now. Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, remember when he was a governor? He commuted her sentence, and very sad story though. But that's kind of my whole talk thus far in a nutshell. All right, so remember that stat of the women who are victims of human trafficking and the women who are the ones that want to be out there, you know? I did a survey because I kept getting tired of people saying, holy crap, man, you got these 4 victims in Columbus, and we have 1,500 women charged with prostitution every year, churning through. So I did a completely unscientific study, wouldn't hold up under any academic rigor whatsoever, could never quote me as being accurate in any fashion, but I'm dead sure that I'm right, okay? We gave about 9 questions to about 80 women, all right, and they filled them out really quickly in the jail cell. 92% of them tested off the charts, as this is the life they're living right now. And they didn't even know why we're asking, you know, but my God. So out of 1,000 women, if 92% of them actually are human trafficking victims, that's 920. That's a lot more than the movie Taken, and it's in my town. It's in my own neighborhoods, you know, and it's in yours too. I can guarantee you, because you're going to find human trafficking. You ready for this? Get your pens out. You're going to find human trafficking anywhere there are men who are out of town unwatched and have extra money. That's where you're going to find it happening. Does that happen in your town? I bet you it does. Okay, sorry, I get very upset about this. So I told that to our police department, and the police department says, well, maybe we should take every prostitution case, a misdemeanor case, and start to look at it. Like the person we're talking to, we got a 92% chance she's a victim on a felony of the first degree, and we can start solving the big cases. So that's what we started to do in Columbus, okay? All this kind of branched out. But do these women that I showed you earlier on, do they know what the law of human trafficking is? Do they know it? No. Okay, that's not how they see it. She's unaware that what's happening to her is even illegal. She's manipulated. She's also super embarrassed by people like us. She's super ashamed of what her life is and what she's had to do. This shame is amazing. I have a sign outside my courtroom that says, welcome to the no shame zone. It's that important. That could be the number one thing these ladies, they come in, they feel like we've made them feel because of a label we've put on them, okay? So we're going to talk about this at the end, how to reframe how you look at them. That's really important, okay? So how should courts respond? I'm kind of embarrassed because my staff found a picture of me last week. That's the way I look, okay? Now, what is trauma-informed care? We're going to take you through some really, number one, you got to know what trauma's diagnosis, what the outcroppings of trauma are, dissociation, avoidance, hypervigilant, intrusive thoughts. Okay, I'm now going to be hypervigilant. I'm in handcuffs, okay? I'm going to be hypervigilant. He's got a pen in his hand. He's got a necktie on. It looks like he could hurt me with that. Legs crossed, okay. All right. Door back there. There's a door back there. There's noise coming from over there. All right, now if I'm in court, that's a trauma response, being hypervigilant. And if I'm in court, what does that look like? It looks like disrespect. And as a new judge, they taught me that was the number one thing between a civil society and anarchy, was disrespect for the judicial system. So you got to throw an extra 30 days on that person. Am I speaking truth or not, y'all? Okay, dissociation. Dissociation looks like this. Kind of disrespectful again, right? Dissociation is another survival mechanism of the brain that can allow a human being to be in a hotel with some monster out in the parking lot going to make money off of them, and they're being raped by some freak, and they somehow can take their brain and put it somewhere else to survive this life, okay? So that's dissociation. When they get under stress, they start dissociating. You guys are all powerful people. They're going to disassociate with you too, like they do me. They get stressed out if they're seeing a clerk of court, if they're seeing a probation officer, if they're seeing somebody that is the system, okay? Now, what you got to do is you got to figure out ways to build trust with these people. That's the number one way to be trauma competent in your court. Build trust, okay? That means don't promise anything that you can't deliver. Just think about trust. Treat her like a victim of violent crime. Don't do that. Don't give her that look. Especially you women, don't give her that look like she's a dirty nothing, whore. Don't give her that. I know you can do it. Like, all right? Don't do that. Judges, we're the worst. But look her in the eyes. Now I'm going to hit the men hard. Look her in the eyes, and the eyes only, men. And I appreciate y'all, the men, being here. It really means a lot to me because we have a duty to serve and protect the women that are in our sphere. And so I take that very seriously, and this is very serious to me. Okay, so I really appreciate the fact that you're here. And I'm not trying to embarrass us, But we men have a problem with our eyes, don't we? We have a tendency to look you in the eyes and then go to other places on your body. Okay? Don't do it, especially with these guys. As soon as you do that, they're checking out on you. Okay? You're going to lose them because they're like, I knew it. He's only after one thing. Okay? Oh, my God. Listen. You might have heard that story. You might have heard her story 100 times because they're all kind of similar, you know. But listen, be curious. You make her feel worthy. When you come into my courtroom, if you're in this docket, I'm going to say, Carlene, sorry, cataracts. I'm going to say, Carlene, I'm so happy to meet you. Oh my gosh, your attorney and my staff has told me so many great things about you. I couldn't wait to meet you. Welcome to my courtroom. That's the reception you get. How does that feel, Carlene? How does that make you feel? Welcoming. Yeah. Like, wow, even a judge thinks I'm okay. You know? Okay, cool. Never promise what you can't deliver. I've violated all these rules. These rules have come from me. I'm not kidding you. Every rule of these I've violated 100 times, and finally people are sitting me down going, Dad, like, you promised her a cable converter box, and we can't deliver that, and now she's crying, and we got a bunch of social workers over there. Like, holy crap, man. So it's serious. Safety is the number one goal. Write this down. Seeking safety is the best model that we have for treating these guys. Seeking safety. Write that down. Go look it up. Get the book. Yeah, be mindful of what you say. Oh my gosh, you can't believe it. Like, one time I said, oh, Carlene, you changed your hair. Crying, social workers, counselors, what in the hell did you say? You know, like, oh, jeez. Sorry, folks at home. Okay, now, traditional response.
Can you assure safety?
Number one, hopefully we're going to talk about that. You get them out of where they live and you put them in a safe inpatient treatment, basically. We have a house that has security around it. They have a pit bull that lives with them. You know, things like that. They're never alone. Just things like that. Does that help? Okay. I was trained at New Judge School to look at you and say, Francis, what's wrong with you? You don't have your driver's license valid? Like, who cares? But I'm supposed to say, what's wrong with you? All right, this. Okay. I wonder what happened to you. Did that feel any different? See it? You feel it? It really works. What happened to you? I mean, my God. You know? It really works. It really works. And you got to mean it, but it's the most amazing thing. I wonder what happened to you. It's that thing. It's a miracle. You deserve punishment for your behavior. And this is some of the stuff that I know we've already been through. I understand that, man, from this trauma, that's why you're here. I mean, Vivian, shortly after that picture, had someone creeping into her bedroom, changing her clothes in the middle of the night and abusing her. That's what happened to Vivian. Okay? That's what happened to that little girl. So, yeah, no wonder she's looking like that. Oh, man, this is me. I wanted you're a criminal, you're a victim, you're a defendant, you're a prosecutor, you're a defense attorney. Can I go home now? All right? That was my day. Not this. Trauma reactions, and I've already been through them, are expressed in different ways. So I kind of dove deep on that because that's important. You're in control of your circumstances that brought you here in front of me versus, wow, your behavior is understandable given all your life experiences. Okay, and how can we interrupt that? Yeah, I had a commercial when I first ran for judge. You saw me taking a jail door going, Herbert, tough on crime. You know? Right? No. You need to be removed from all this crap that's going on. And, all right. I got to keep going. Solution, because I know we're running late here. Does anybody know whose flag that is? Sweden. You guys are smarter than I am, man. That's cool. Yeah, so Sweden said, hey, we got all these people flying in from all over the world and ravaging our women and girls. So why don't we prosecute the buyers and develop an exit strategy for the women and start to reverse this? So I said, hey, we can do that. At least I have the women in my court so we can get an exit strategy. So that's the sole part I started on, was helping the women get out. Sweden started that in 1999, by the way. I started my court in 2009, so 10 years later. So our local solution looks like this. I'm down off the bench. And by the way, that is Vivian, the girl that you first saw. That's me giving her a 6-year coin. Down off the bench. Still got my robe on in that one. I don't wear my robe very often anymore. So it usually comes by attorney referral. All the women in Columbus know what the catch court program is now. They know what, all the words out. So then we get our clinicians go into the jail. My women employees actually go into the jail and meet with the women there. That's building trust. Let me tell you what, no one else goes to the jail. When the attorney goes to the jail, you have to sit behind the glass. We're one-on-one. How you doing? What happened, man? So we start that building trust right there in the jail. Right there. Week after, we're right here for you. Okay? Then court in Ohio, very intense. We have a 2-year program. It's the longest program in the country. It's still my belief that that's the best model. We've learned from the other models like New York. You heard her talking about the 5 sessions and all that. We do what we call Catch 101, which has been very helpful. If you're a first or second timer, you go through 3 days of brief, 3 days of catch. But we've gotten so many women who years later have then wound up saying, all right, I'm ready. I'm ready for the full 2-year program. Very intense. They have to come to court every week and have a session, which you're going to see, I think, a video of it. Trauma treatment. And then graduation, which we then expunge all their records. Okay, so that's really cool because we can put them back in the position before they were even victimized. And at least their criminal records won't keep them from housing, education, and employment. All right? And let me tell you what, those hearings are the funnest part of my whole job. Yeah, that's just the greatest thing. Don't have time for that. It's important, but I don't have time for it. Human trafficking / prostitution is devastating. Even if you don't think it's going on because your law enforcement never arrests a woman for prostitution, it's going on, okay? And it's devastating not only to your women and girls, but your communities. Most communities I go to, they don't know the extent of the problem. They're still living under a rock, and they don't even know how to begin to address it. So that's why I'm glad you guys are here. I was like, hey, I'm the last on the day, but man, I hope some people show up. So I'm really encouraged by you guys here. Is it worth it? Here's the exciting conclusion, folks. These are all of our grads. 72% of all the women who've ever entered catch court have not been rearrested yet in 10 years. What did you just say, Herbert? That's the word, man. This is the one girl, I'm not going to point her out and embarrass her, was arrested 9 times a year before she got into catch court. Now she's standing there with the First Lady of Ohio. They feel safer. 77% are now employed, volunteering, enrolled in school, or programs for vocational education. I told Danielle I wouldn't tell stories about all of them, but I got a story about each one of them. Order of the Coif. Isn't she beautiful? She's one of the smartest people I've ever met. Brilliant. Look at this. She's a goofball, man. They're goofballs. Oh, I got stories. Now this one I got to pause on. Remember that girl? This lady graduated from catch court 2012, was then hired by the prosecutor's office who prosecuted her for her crimes, put her in their victim intake department where she was relating to victims on a level that no one ever could in a million years became a victim's advocate, and then wind up becoming the chief, the chief administrative assistant right below the top prosecutor. And then when my bailiff retired 2 years ago, she now works as my bailiff in this very court. And she's given every day. Man, it's great to have a survivor leader on your team. That's another thing you guys got to remember. Once you start producing survivors, figure out how to integrate them back in. Because as she says, it's like we were on the Titanic, Judge Herbert. There's only a few people that were on the Titanic, and only they know how to relate to each other. It's a thing, okay? Old Barb, one of my faves. Look at her. God, she's beautiful, isn't she? That's up on my bench. I don't know how she got up there. Anyway, she snuck up there when I wasn't around, right? Okay, I love her, man. Not sure what's coming up. Oh, yeah. You gotta see this. You gotta see this. This is them talking. Oh, I love it.
2 years removed from the darkness of the streets comes the light of a new life. No longer posing for mugshots, today's photos commemorate a day of achievement, graduation day.
The women of the Catch Court program. To know them, it will inspire you. These are amazing women.
Women like Vanessa Cooper.
I'm a full-time student at Columbus State. I've been on the Dean's List, and I was recently inducted into Phi Theta Kappa.
Jennifer Evans.
I'm real proud of myself today. And I like myself today, and that's a huge thing. You know, before I was totally disgusted with myself. I mean, I prayed to God every day that God would take me, and even He didn't want me.
Yvette Graham.
I felt really privileged and blessed. To be one of the few women who took the time to give herself another chance at life. And it is worth living. We are worth living. We are worth fighting for.
Some of what they receive can't be quantified or spelled out on any piece of paper.
When you see that woman who's almost dead, been taken advantage of since she was 14 years old, sold into a gang, and then she becomes that. That's amazing.
Herbert is convinced, recognizing these women as victims, not criminals, providing support instead of just a jail sentence, is how you turn a victim into a survivor.
They're going to college, they're getting valid driver's licenses, they're paying taxes, they're being reunited with their family, they're giving back to their community. That's what justice ought to be about. I want to give you guys the hope. I give you guys the depressing part because it's horrible. But there's a massive amount of good things that can come. My life is so much better now because of this. Okay? I'm going to speed through the last of this because we don't have enough time. I went to our mayor and I said, let's make Columbus, Ohio a place where no one wants to buy a woman or a girl ever again, a place that no one wants to sell a woman or a girl ever again. Okay? In the last 2 years, we've had 176 people arrested in human trafficking arrested case. You know what I'm talking about. And last Friday, two of our women testified against him, and he didn't think they were going to show up. One of these serial rapist guys, you know what I'm talking about, that preys upon women that are vulnerable. He got offered 18 months in prison. He turned it down. He says, "Those girls will never show up." Two of our women showed up, testified. One of them was in handcuffs. Jury believed him. Guy got 50 years in prison. So these are some stories, guys. Okay. Collaboration. Yes. Police, prosecutors, public defenders, treatment facilities, nonprofits. We got them all together, and I said there ain't no way all these people are going to get along. And trust me, it is hard. Right? We're sitting in the room, ain't going to work. I'm not the guy for this, right? I am not the guy. I want to be playing golf, okay? But my God, they all start jumping in together, dressed for success. Well, okay, I don't have time to go through all of them, okay? But, I know y'all want to get out of here. But anyway, it really does work, just pouring into these guys.
So
we
we just
supposed to do that?
Yeah. So we just want to ask you a few questions. I know that when we started, there was only one, which is Ohio, that had a human trafficking docket. But for those who are interested, do you have examples of already a strong collaborations already happening in your court, and what do you think is missing that you need to start one? I hear from.
One of the biggest things.
Oh, can you go to the mic? I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm from Idaho, in the northern area of Idaho, which was really rural, and now it's been just growing by leaps and bounds. And I know Boise's a bigger city; it's gone through a lot of stuff too. But we border Canada, and we also border Montana. So we have a lot of. Big mouth. And so we have a lot of opportunities for people to come in and out, things like that. I think one of the things that we really struggle with is, denial is a beautiful thing. So everybody's in denial, oh, this isn't happening. Like, we didn't have an opiate crisis, and we didn't have a heroin crisis, and we do. And I think that as a community, that people have got to realize that it is a huge issue and a huge problem, especially with juveniles. Because a lot of them are being taken into custody, being put in the detention center, and then their pimps are bonding them out. Yep. Or they're allegedly going back home, they get there, they hate their situation, they run away again. So it's just one of those cycles. So I really think that they have to open their eyes, and we're a cute little resort town, and everybody thinks that, but there's some heavy duty stuff. When we had an Ironman competition there 2 years ago, there was a sting operation that involved a lot of local law enforcement, and my buddy that works for the feds told me that at one point there were so many offenders at the Holiday Inn Express, you didn't know who was law enforcement, who was an offender. And we had a really prominent anesthesiologist trying to meet up with a 13-year-old boy. So it's out there. Yeah.
Denial is a very strong, powerful thing, yeah. For communities.
Another issue was brought up, and then I'll turn it back to Danielle. But so we only have one human trafficking court here, and it's great that you guys are here. But show of hands, how many drug courts? How many people have drug courts in their court? Yeah, so almost all of you, right? Okay, I'm going to give you one really good takeaway that can start help saving women and can make you look good as your court administrator to your judges. Because some people are like, I can't start another court. I don't have a budget. I don't have it. But take your drug court and separate out the women from the men. Do a gender-specific drug court. Women one day or one morning, men another day, another afternoon. You're going to take out all that stuff, and women are going to be able to start talking about their issues. And the cool thing is when women start helping women, that's kind of why the whole thing is so successful. Next one, sorry, go ahead.
No, anyone else wanting to?
Another question?
As you walk up, I also want to say that we around the country have really worked with communities that are a little bit more rural, and the denial that doesn't happen here, and it's happening everywhere. And so, working with more rural communities has been a big focus of us, and a lot of money is going into rural communities right now to help create these dockets.
Judge, I just want to say thank you. We in the clerk's office really appreciate what you're doing and support you 100%. You know, we have clerks in the courtroom that help you out. Recently, you came to us and asked us to remove human trafficking victims from our website to help prevent pimps and others from finding them when they change addresses. So I just encourage everybody here to work with their clerks to try to keep those records more private, and you don't have to seal them, but you can remove them from public view, so it's harder to locate them. Also, another thing we've done in Columbus is we have identified different conferences and activities, and I hate to say anything negative about Arnold, but Arnold Classic is coming up. Arnold Schwarzenegger has started Arnold's Classic maybe 20 years ago in Columbus, and we see a huge influx of victims from all over the world that are brought in for this particular conference. So I know that you get a lot of cases after they leave. But we've also been able to identify from just experience what conferences bring them in so that you can identify with them. But I know that we support you and we believe in your cause and helping all the victims of human trafficking, and just want to say thank you for your work.
Lori Tyak, Columbus, Ohio. We were having these guys figure out where these girls are and what's happening to them through the clerk's website. So, you know, a statement of violations of probation would go on. I'd say, okay, transfer her to so-and-so in my entry. They could see that, and then they would be waiting for them at the treatment facility. It's very, very scary stuff. Any other questions before we go? Yes, sir.
He just turned off the mic.
I'm from New Mexico. Might need to turn the mic back on. But underneath there, underneath.
Here,
There you go. I'm from New Mexico. We have our third largest population group is Native Americans. There's an epidemic of missing Native American women. Do you have, Danielle, examples of programs that are targeted at sexual trafficking of Native American women?
I can't mention them. I don't have them off the top of my head because of my jet lag. But we have organizations that are Native American organizations that are specifically working with courts and communities to address that issue. We partner with NYJA to address human trafficking and domestic violence in tribal communities. So yes.
It's a great issue. Thanks for bringing that up. I was reading about that last week, I think, or whenever. Great, bring that up. So important.
So we have a couple minutes, and you wanted to say something, so go ahead. Come on up. I think it's on.
Thank you. So my name is Frances. I'm actually a court administrator for a tribal court, and maybe I should be there. So what I want to encourage a lot of the other court administrators is that we do have a lot of awareness in our tribal communities, and a lot of the courts are working towards helping our families. We have a lot more flexibility with our court systems. So if I could, and I don't meet a lot of tribal court administrators, but connect with your local tribal court systems. They're usually the pulse of the tribe and can connect you with other resources.
It's great information.
Thank you. Yes, that's great. And also collaborating between state and tribal courts, who has jurisdiction, and so that's really critical. And we do a lot, and we have partners again who do a lot around. I was a tribal state liaison when I worked for Washington State for the Supreme Court, so I think that's really critical. And I want to say about the denial and the Nordic model that Judge Herbert talked about in Sweden is really they're trying to do it in Washington, they're trying to do it, Washington State, they're trying to do it in other areas. But it's a societal issue, right? Buying people is a very societal issue. And that's, if we can't address that, we have to be able to address that. That book that you read, Pimpology, it's in the self-help at the bookstore. It was at one point, right? How to be a pimp or something. There was another one. It's in the self-help section. So that just shows where our society is on this. And so if we need to do something, everyone, not just in your courtroom, but personally, need to start talking about how this is a wrong, insidious issue and problem. And you want to end with that good video, or do you want to?
We actually have enough time.
Yeah.
When I see multi-generational healing from parents to children and the women getting their children back and how important that is to those children, that's what makes it worth it to me.
If it wasn't for Catch Court, I would be back out on the street. It saved my life. They gave me my life back. They gave me a second chance. I have a home that I actually call mine. I have a 1-year-old daughter. I got custody of my 14-year-old twins back, my grandbabies and my kids. To be a part of their lives again, it's a wonderful. I could be a good example for my kids, and my daughter will never see me the way my sons did. I may not have been a good mom, but I'm one heck of a grandma.
All right, well, that's it. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. If you could take a few minutes and go on your app and rate this and give some comments, that would give some feedback to our conference committee. And as I just briefly mentioned, I worked with Judge Herbert early in the days of Catch, and it is an absolutely magical experience to see these women progress through their program and to see their success stories. So I would encourage you to reach out to any of these resources if you're even considering this type of a docket, because it can really make a great impact. So thank you to our presenters, and have a great evening.
Good job.